Hi everyone to Permissionless Learning. This is our sixth or seventh episode. We've been doing this for a few months now, and to give a quick reintroduction to everyone, Permissionless Learning is all about learning new things and getting started with building some things without waiting for permission from someone like a university or an employer, which would stop you from doing so. And today, I've actually brought on Pushkar Chaltare, who is a AWS cybersecurity engineer who works from Canada at the moment. And yeah, Pushkar has had quite an exciting journey that he wants to share with us today. So Pushkar, why don't you get started and tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for the introduction, Akash. So I'm Pushkar. Right now, I work with AWS Security as a product security engineer. But when I was growing up, I had no idea what hackers were or cybersecurity were. I did not even work with computers fairly often until after my 10th standard. That's in 11th is when I actually started interacting with computers on a daily basis. So after 12th, I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. Computer science sounded easy. Everyone said there are good job opportunities. So I thought, okay, let's do this. Let's try what computer engineering is. And that's how I got into computer engineering. So I was doing computer engineering in Pune, Sinhagad University or Sinhagad College in Pune University. The coursework in Pune University at that time wasn't great. It was pretty outdated. I wasn't learning anything. I wasn't enjoying anything they were teaching in school, university. So one day, just my friend said, "Hey, there is a hacking related 2 day seminar. Do you want to join with me?" And I was like, I don't know anything about hacking. I don't even know what it means. So he said, that doesn't matter. It's on weekend. It just costs 500 rupees. Let's go. So I said, okay, let's go. So I went there. The first day, I was pretty much like completely fallen in love with hacking. On the first day itself, they taught us how to put a pen drive in a computer, which then can give you a file system access. And from that file system access, you can steal everyone else's data on that computer. They also showed us how to steal passwords and usernames for other users from that computer. And when I saw that, first thought was, hey, can I do this in my computer labs? And I mean, you should not do this in your schools or universities or your workplaces. But at that time, I thought, hey, this sounds fun. So I started using those techniques in our cool lab to steal university papers, like college papers.
Okay.
That was a lot of fun. The other things they taught us was how to log into web application as some other user, or how basically a malware works. It was fairly introductory, and most of the things I did not understand at that time. I was just plugging into pen drives in weird machines and just checking what kind of data I can get out of a machine. So that was a pretty basic, if I think about it now. But when I did that course, like I said, I was pretty mind blown. I had started enjoying hacking or the things I had learned in 2 days. So I started trying to do those attacks on my own, on my friends' machines or in my college labs. And I started hitting pain points there because I only knew a couple of things which those hacking people have taught me. And other than that, I did not know anything. So then I realized my lack of interest in computer at that time was a problem, and I also did not know a lot about computers. I started going through other books, other hacking books at that time to learn more about, say, operating systems. Started reading other books from universities, like in from Stanford. There was, even at that time, Stanford had their computer networking course online for free for everyone. So I started going through that course material.
Interesting. So this was back in 2014 or 15, I guess.
No, it was around 2010,
Oh,
2011.
oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So they just started going through the material presented by other universities. It was fairly basic at that time. There were no like Coursera or there was no like educational YouTube at that time, but whatever was available, I started going through it.
Right.
It did not help me with any grades or anything, but at least I started to understand how computers work at a much deeper level than anyone else in my class. So
Right.
around fourth year, there was a campus placement at my university or my college. Most of the companies at that time which were hiring in India were hiring for either support roles or software engineering roles. They were not hiring for cybersecurity at all. And I had decided that back in second year that I'm going to become a security engineer. Or at that time, I used to call it hacking, that I'm going to do hacking after I graduate. I don't want any other profile. I don't care about any other profile. So
Right.
after fourth year, I graduated but couldn't find any suitable job. But I was fortunate enough that I had some guidance from my cousins who were in US doing masters. Also, my family was it was possible for me to go to MS through my family's sponsorship. So I did a lot more research on what courses are available in US, what sort of opportunities are available in US. So there were a lot of pretty interesting opportunities in US, but unfortunately, it is very hard to get a job in US directly from India. The easier path is going for a master's, and after master's, finding a job.
Right, right. And to be specific, in your case, it would have been very difficult to find roles in your field of interest without having a master's degree, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I also wanted, yeah, true. And also, although I knew a lot of things about security, I was not at a level where anyone would have hired me at that point because uh, eh, there was a limited job openings and most of them required more work experience. So it was pretty hard to get a job directly into security. But anyways, I went to Northeastern University, started a course called Information Assurance, basically cybersecurity course in Northeastern University. That course taught me again a lot of computer fundamentals, but as well as it teaches us risk management, which is pretty crucial in cybersecurity or security. Like, what is the risk if this issue is exploited by a hacker, or what happens if this issue is exploited by the hacker? That course also teach me cybersecurity as well as cybersecurity and cyber law, because a lot of times you are working within some specific review or framework. Like, if you are working on a credit card systems, you need to know PCI compliance details. If you are working on a healthcare systems, you need to know specific security compliance laws related to healthcare industry. Same for finance and same for government cloud and whatnot. So that course was pretty good. It taught us cybersecurity technical skills as well as non-technical skills. The other good part about Northeastern University was there is a co-op program. A co-op program is similar to internship but over much longer period. So an internship might be like 2 to 3 months, whereas a co-op is around 10 months to an year.
Right.
So through Northeastern University, I found my first internship, or sorry, co-op, which was for 10 months. It was for a cybersecurity consulting company called Cigital. And what Cigital does is clients of Cigital. So say Akash is a client, he has built an awesome social networking website. He wants to know whether there are any security issues in that site or not. So Akash will go to Cigital and ask them, hey, can you try to hack into my website? So Cigital's engineers would try to hack into Akash's shiny new website. If there are any security issues, they will provide a report saying, hey, these are the security issues we found, and this is how you can fix those security issues. So
Right.
that was my first job. And after I graduated from Northeastern, my first job was again on the same lines where I was a security consultant or security testing consultant for another company in Seattle area. So in that, does that make sense so far? Any questions?
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense to me. Anyone else, if you have any questions at this moment, you could raise your hand or put them in the uh, permissionless mentorship channel. I realize right now that that channel should probably be named Q&A or something, so it's easier to understand that you could put your questions there. So yeah, just share them over text, or you could ask them right now if you want. Yeah, I guess Pushkar, you can continue till then.
Yeah, so after I joined a company in Seattle called Security Innovation.
Sorry, Gibran had a question. Pushkar, can you view the Q&A channel yourself? Yeah, how did you
Yeah, how
select
did
Northeastern? Is his question.
Yeah, so when I was applying for masters, my main criteria was that school should have a cybersecurity program at in 2014. So CMU admission is very hard to get. NYU's program was okay, but Northeastern's security program was much better. And I did not really apply to Georgia Tech and CMU because the my marks or admission, I mean, my academic profile wasn't that great at that time, or I felt it wouldn't be good enough to get an admission. So at the end, I had a I-20 or that admission acceptance from Northeastern as well as LA. What is that university in LA? I forgot the name. But that other university, yeah, University of Southern California, it was too expensive. So between my options, Northeastern was the best choice.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
Gibran, did you have any other questions? I just added Gibran to the voice channel.
Okay, thanks. Just one follow-up question would be ki if supposing today if I was coming for a master's in cybersecurity to US, what's the best university that you would recommend after having seen people from different universities?
So obviously the ones you linked are pretty good. Northeastern is also good. So it's depends on which in which university you get admission as well as cost of living and
Okay.
how much your academic scores are. But it doesn't really matter if you go. I mean, if you, like Akash developed his profile, or if you do more. I mean, if you build your profile in Bug Bounty, if you have hands-on skill, if you have some projects on GitHub, it doesn't really matter which school you go to.
Okay, I see. चलेगा. Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, and we will talk about Bug Bounty at some point later. So if you can develop your skills and demonstrate your skills through Bug Bounty or some other way, you don't necessarily need to worry about which university you're going to.
All right. Sure. Thanks.
Right, we'll be coming on to these topics shortly. But yeah, Pushkar, so far you've told us about you joined the cybersecurity consultancy. But if you could, I guess, come to how you came to join AWS, and then maybe we could talk about some of your responsibilities there before we move on to the further audience part, I guess.
Yeah. So after 2 years working in that company Seattle, I was getting tired of consulting. I wanted to do some other work, and at the same time, I was facing issues with US visa. So I was looking at other countries as potential, I guess, to potentially move to. So I, through a couple of friends, I found out AWS was hiring in Vancouver, Canada. So I applied to that role, and since I knew a couple of people, I also knew what to expect in those interviews. So that interview turned out to be pretty easy to crack after my past experience and through some contacts in AWS security. And fortunately, I was hired into AWS as a product security engineer. And now I'm in Canada through AWS.
Okay.
Difference here, and I guess the other part you wanted to know is what I do in AWS now versus what I did before.
Yeah.
So there are 3 or 4 different things I do here. The first part is, or one of the parts is, like I said, there are security consulting companies which will come and hack into your websites or mobile applications or your web servers, and they will give you report back. But these reports, if they directly go to a developer, they don't necessarily have all the background knowledge or skills to figure out what needs to be done or how to do it. So that's where I come in. So if a consulting company or a bug bounty engineer finds a security issue, they it comes to me, and then I work with the developer working on that feature to make sure we figure out what needs to be fixed. how it needs to be fixed. And then at the end, I also do a retest to make sure the developer has correctly fixed that issue. The second part I do is I also help with the prioritization, but because not every security issue is equally critical. So if an issue is not security critical, it should be fixed, but it doesn't need to be fixed right now. It can wait until 6 months. Maybe some other few feature in the future will take care of that bug. So that's where I also come in. I can help security prioritize this fixing of security issues. So
Okay.
that's one part of my job. The second part is if there is because of a security issue, there is a customer impact. Then because of, like as I said, maybe through HIPAA or PCI, we need to let our customers know. So if a customer has been affected because of a security issue, I have to work with AWS legal counsel, the service team, the developer, and then write a messaging for that customer saying, hey, this is what happened with your data, and this is the next steps you should take to make sure you are not affected again by the same issue in future. So that's the second part of my job. The third part, which is the main part, is I work on the security reviews for AWS teams. So for example, if a AWS team wants to build a new feature, part of that new feature design would be a security review of that design. Because in security, if you start early, say in the initial phases of software development lifecycle, it is much easier to catch the security issues and fix them. And it gets much harder once the system is completely developed. You cannot bolt on security after the system is developed. Similarly, you can look at the examples. I mean, in a building, while you are building that building, you can say, and you can build it appropriately. So you can say, hey, this building should be resistance to maybe six scaled tsunami attack, not tsunami, but let's say earthquake attack.
Right.
It is much easier to build or design that system or building to resist six scale earthquake attack than building the building completely and then adding some couple of other enhancements on that building. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but that's where I come in. I help teams with making sure the service design itself has security properties from the building and development phase, and it is secure against most of these attacks.
Right, and then the reprioritization of issues as they come up through the
Yep.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
So
that
those
makes
are the
sense.
main three responsibilities.
So, what's the most exciting part of your job right now?
The most exciting part is because AWS is such widely used. So take for example, service called EC2, or take example of another AWS service called S3. So many startups use these foundational AWS services. So if I'm working on a EC2 feature and I know if we get the security of that feature wrong, there are so many startups which will be completely insecure. They will lose your data or my data because that the system is not secure. So many big banks are using that EC2 system. So I know that when I do a good job, the banks don't have to worry about their security of their infrastructure.
Right,
So
in a
here the
way,
impact is much bigger.
right, in a way, you're also making your own life more secure because if
Yeah, that's
you,
true.
yeah, if you make a mistake, then that might also result in your own personal data being leaked or something like that.
Yeah, so if say Twitter is using AWS and if AWS launches a insecure feature, Twitter is probably going to be affected by that. And if Twitter gets affected, there are good chances that my own data will be affected by that.
Right, right.
Pushkar, I had one question.
Yep.
First of all, very exciting journey to listen to. And this is, I mean, typically people do software and they go into software development and stuff. But cybersecurity is not the most common thing they go after. So it's quite exciting to listen to you. So I had one question. So you were talking about EC2 and S3, which are the most common services of AWS, and software developers, mainly like full stack developers, use these services day to day. So what do you think are the necessary things every software developer should know about the cybersecurity, which are usually disregarded?
I mean, those are the same things which you should. I mean, it's quite a technical answer to this. I don't know how much you are interested in listening me talking about those extremely technical topics, but generally you should go through AWS security documentation. So you should read about EC2's documentation on how to secure your EC2 instance or your S3 bucket. That should be a good starting point.
Okay. So,
But you can reach out
hmm?
to me later. I mean, if this is
Yeah,
pretty technical answer, so it
no,
will be easier to help you that way.
yeah, this was just a general question because I see that a lot of people don't really care about the security in especially startups when they're starting, like keeping ports open and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But and that's again where prioritization comes into picture because AWS is such a high valued target and customers need to trust AWS's security. So we focus a lot more on security features or security bar. In some cases, we've scrapped plans for new external customer features to fix a security issue. But
Hmm.
that might not be possible for startups because they either they don't have the resources or don't have money, or there might be another issues which complicates the prioritization.
Yeah, right. Okay. Thanks for the answer.
Yeah, but you can reach out to me later and I can pass you more details about securing your AWS infrastructure.
Yeah, definitely I'll reach out. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Prasad. Anyone else have any questions? You can either put them in the Q&A or uh, reach out as a speaker, I guess. But yeah, I guess, yeah, Pushkar. So, what are some of the ways that people can get into cybersecurity? I mean, I guess what would be helpful to start with is what are the opportunities for people in cybersecurity first, and then we can talk about more how people can reach there, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, so nowadays there is a this industry is a lot more matured. There are a lot of jobs in India as well as other countries. There are security specific courses in India as well in Indian universities. Obviously, in if you go and study in masters in US, Canada, those universities also have specific computer security courses. But if you just want to start on your own without anything, the easiest way to start is just go on YouTube or Google and search for common web security issues, and you will get a tons of hits for that. Those YouTube videos or Google articles will tell you what are the common security issues, how to exploit those common security issues, maybe to get access to somebody else's account or somebody else's data. So once you start searching, you will start realizing there are maybe like 8 to 10 common attack types. So once you go through these 8 to 10 attack types, you will get. I mean, you will once you practice those, you'll get more comfortable with these 8 to 10 attack types. At that time, what you can do is start creating your own applications, or just sample web applications, and then just test your own applications. If you manage to break your own application, then you can look at how to fix that specific security issue. Again, just to search on Stack Overflow, like how to fix this XYZ security issue, and there would be helpful comments on Stack Overflow. And that's how I learned, by the way, as well. So I took a vulnerable application in JavaScript and I just started testing my own application. As soon as I found an issue, I started looking at how to fix that security issue. So again, I would write JavaScript code to fix that security issue, redeploy the application, test it again to make sure it is completely fixed. If not fixed, go back again, I mean, try to fix it using some other way. and you just keep repeating this process until you get more and more familiar. And this is the best way to learn security or how to test security applications. So
Interesting.
doing this exercise will either open up opportunities for you in bug bounty. Bug bounty is more not it is not consulting, it is more like freelance. So if you start getting better at bug bounty, you can find bugs in something like PayPal, Facebook, Amazon, and the payout can be anywhere between $1,000 to even like $100,000. But it requires a lot of patience and work to get that good at bug bounty. If you are not looking at bug bounty, the other way is try to find a pen testing profile. Pen testing is where some client comes to you and asks you to test their web application or mobile application. There are many pen testing companies in India now. As a fresher, you can just practice web testing skills, give interviews in that companies, and then hopefully get a job in those consulting companies. So there's the second type of job profile. Then there are other job profiles like network monitoring or network operations, where you look at your company's traffic in going, outgoing, see if there are any malicious patterns, see if there are any requests going to China or Russia. Because if there is a network traffic going to Russia, something malicious is happening in most cases.
Right.
So that's another type of job profile. And once you get some experience, you will figure out what profile you like, or you after some experience you can have a profile like me where you are working with the teams and developers and figuring out the prioritization, which is a little less technical, more towards understanding the business impact, business use cases, and then working towards prioritization and whatnot.
Right. When you're working professionally, most of your work is relating to how the business can be more successful rather than how you can have more fun at work, I guess.
Yeah, bug bounty and finding security is way more fun, but yeah, uh, fixing it is a much harder challenge than finding an issue.
Right, right. And most of us have also heard of capture the flag events. So, I mean, for those who don't know, it's basically a pen testing environment which is created for people who have to hack the system and get to certain parameters through which they collect points. So, yeah, Pushkar, if you could talk about that.
Yeah. It's basically like the security version of competitive coding of like hacker rank and anything.
Right, I think that's a
Yep,
great way to put
exactly.
that. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gibran. Yes, Pushkar, go on.
No, I don't have anything else to add. It's basically like Gibran said. You can search online for CTF challenges. You can try to attempt CTF challenge. If you fail, usually people post their solutions. So you can go through someone else's solution and see how they solve that challenge. That's one way to develop your profile as well. So if you are really good at CTFs, you can put it on your LinkedIn profile saying, hey, I was part of the winning team of this specific CTF, and it will help you get more interviews as well as get maybe a job offer from big company or whichever company you want.
Right. So, Pushkar, coming from that, I have a interesting question for you. So, what does a winning profile look like to you? So, if you receive a bunch of profiles through resume, I mean, like you receive resumes, I guess, or you see LinkedIn profiles or Angel profiles, and you want to select a new engineer to work with you or work under you. So, what does a winning profile look like in that case?
Yeah, so winning profile is someone whose name is on that. Usually CTFs also publish a list of winning teams. So if you are part of team which, and if there is a wiki for the team which says this guy is part of my team, and if your team's name is against that maybe CTF's winning list, that's a pretty good indicator. If you find a bug bounty in say Apple, Google, Amazon, that team will also give you kudos points. So if you have say kudos points, or if your name is in the Hall of Fame for say Facebook, that's a pretty good indicator that this guy knows what he's talking about. Similarly, if you find security issues in, say, Windows operating system or Linux operating system, usually they give you a number to identify that security bug. So if those numbers are called CVEs, common vulnerability exposure, I think. So if there are CVEs you have found, and which I can independently verify you are the person who has found that CVE, that's a pretty good indicator that you know a lot about security, and also you are passionate about security.
Interesting. So that sounds like the GitHub for cybersecurity, basically having publicly verifiable CVs which can be attributed to
Yep.
you.
Or you can go and build some new Python testing tool, or you can create a new tool in JavaScript which helps with security automation.
Right.
That's also one way. And usually I interview a lot of people, only 2 to 3 people out of 10 have done these kind of activities. And if you have done this, there's a pretty good chance you will move to next round, as well as you'll get an offer.
Right, right. And one thing I like about you is that you put, even though you're a AWS engineer in Canada, you put Sasuke's photo as your profile picture. You haven't put a super serious photo there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows that, you
Yeah,
know.
generally the information security or cyber security community is into pirates or like ninjas. Uh, Although I work for AWS, our team itself is not that like, we are not that like serious and professional compared to the other teams. We have a lot of fun. We like pirates and we like ninjas.
I see, I see. That's nice. So I guess I have asked all the questions that I had so far. Does anyone have any other questions they want to ask Pushkar? I mean, you can consider this as the Q&A round itself, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Actually, Pushkar, one big question that I had was when you're looking at profiles, when you're interviewing or recruiting, how much importance do you give to certifications like, say, maybe the OSCP or CRTP and such?
So usually OSCP is better than other ones. So other than OSCP, we don't really care about certificates. We care more about the tools you have developed or CVEs you have found or any bug bounty kudos you have from, say, Microsoft. But OSCP is one exception to that. OSCP certificate itself is pretty hard to get, so that has some more value. But other certificates don't necessarily have any value. They just demonstrate that you are interested in learning about these, or you have done some work to learn about few things, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you know what you're talking about. Whereas finding a CVE or having bug bounty kudos means you already are at a level where you can do this professionally.
Right. Actually, this is one very good thing about recruitment over on the other side of the Atlantic in US and Canada, that certifications aren't given all that much of an importance. Whereas over here, from whatever interviews I've given for local cybersecurity positions, if you have an OSCP, only then are you even getting an interview. Otherwise, you aren't even getting recruited. Like over here, the competition is becoming so stiff. So that's one good thing over there.
Yeah, I'm not aware of how recruiting works here, so maybe you're probably more than me.
What's the
But in
OSCP?
US, if
No, I
you
mean,
know,
yeah.
so that's again a certificate related to security, but that it is pretty difficult to get that certificate. So
Which one?
OSCP.
Yeah, right, OCP. And I think now CEH and such have become quite redundant, quite outdated.
Yeah. But if you are like planning to go to US or Canada, those certificates don't really mean much. You need to have hands-on experience, or you need to have some bug bounty experience or things like that, some tooling experience.
I see. Okay, thanks.
Uh, j-
Hello.
yeah, Akash Rawale.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
yeah,
just.
this is Akash here.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I had questions regarding bug bounties. Like why in India it is not considered better? Like P4 and P3 vulnerabilities are not given that much of importance. Like what we actually get the bounties internationally, why don't we get it in India?
So it depends on the company, because in AWS or Google we care about. So in AWS, if we lose your data, that's a breach of trust, and you will next time think maybe you. I mean, you will again not use cloud, right? I mean, if there is a vulnerability in DynamoDB and we lose all of your data, or hacker steals all of your data, that's like a business ending scenario for AWS. But if Domino's or like say Zomato loses your data, it doesn't really matter to them that much. So it depends on company how much they care about security and how it affects their business. So if you store data in say Drive and all of your data gets stolen, you will not put your data in Google Drive again. So for Google Drive, it is like a business ending scenario.
Yeah, like
I'd like I'd like to add a
Akash,
little
one
bit
thing
here,
that I'd like to add
Jason.
is this. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Gibran, would you like to go ahead or?
Okay, yeah, I'll just add something over here. I think it's more because over there, compliance is a huge deal, whereas over here, compliance is not as much of a deal. वहाँ पे if supposing you do suffer a breach, that company has to pay ridiculously insane amounts of money. Um, Whereas over here, compliance is not really enforced much. So over here, even if Domino's loses all of its data, it doesn't really have to pay anything much. It's that's why it's not a business-ending incident for Domino's. क्या होगा ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा थोड़ी सी बदनामी होंगी बट उससे ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं होएगा. So at the end of the day, everything comes down to the financials.
Yeah, true.
Right.
like
One more scenario here is the security culture itself. In addition to what Gibran was saying, there does exist. I mean, 43 of the IT Act actually mandates some sort of civil and criminal liabilities, but then, as he said, this has never been enforced as such. Whereas in the US, you have CCPA, in Europe, you have GDPR. So that's like ridiculously high. You'll get, if at all you have breached and you have found that you have not complied to reasonable cybersecurity practices, you might actually end up paying 4% of your global revenues. That is huge. So
Yeah.
there is a second. There is a culture in India, or actually, it's like there is this chalta hai culture in India that has now pervaded into information security as well. So we are more on the reactive or incident response side. So only people who are thinking of, just as Pushkar was mentioning, I mean, thinking of it on the proactive side, will have a bug bounty program in place, and hence, they will have the incentive to actually have external people find bugs and actually pay them accordingly. Yeah. So Indian companies, I think it will take quite a bit more time for them to catch up to that kind of movement. It requires a huge mindset change.
Yeah, and this did not exist in US either 20 years back. So even in Amazon 20 years back, there was no specific security team or no cared as much as we do now. So hopefully in few years the situation changes here as well.
Yeah, well said, Jason.
Yeah, Akash, does that answer your question?
another was like lot of what's the motivation for bug bounty actually after getting lots of negativity around, just we get the duplicates.
So you mean so if you report a bug bounty and the company says it is already reported and don't pay you, is that your question?
No, not about the their payouts, but actually like you get the like it's already been reported and like you have been trying continuously around 2025 and the results are same for all over it. So it feels like not going forward into that particular program again then.
I mean, from this side, it does happen sometimes. So same, say, lack of CSP headers or something like basic configuration gets reported by scanners. So people take the scans and just try to report it to get like $500. So sometimes it does happen that a one vulnerability has been reported by like 1,000 people. You kind of get tired of seeing those from the other side. Like we know this exists, we do have a plan to fix, or maybe we don't even have plan to fix, but there is no impact at this point, and this has been actually reported by say like 1,000 people. So the other person who is triaging that result might already be annoyed and might give you a negative feedback or annoyed feedback.
Yeah, like some replies, like we get it after a 6 month of period actually. When we have reported on particular thing, and like we actually forget that what was the report about, then we have to go personally look out for the CVs actually what we have done.
Yeah, I mean there is no good answer to this, and generally if you apply, I mean at least Amazon has been pretty good. I know Amazon does a pretty good job of responding to bug bounty requests, or at least the big companies do a good job. But if the company itself doesn't necessarily care about their security posture, then you are not going to get a good response from them. Or even if they give you a response, they are not necessarily going to pay you for that bug.
I'd like to add a little bit word of caution for this. I mean, please go to only companies which have a bug bounty program in place. Otherwise, in certain cases, it might even amount to hacking as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good call out. Yeah, go to HackerOne and see which companies are enrolled,
Yes,
or go to
yes.
Craft. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
I mean, there is a one Indian company which I recently found a bug. I did not even want a bug bounty. I was able to see all their customers' data just by going to a specific order URL. I reported it to their, uh, I guess, director of engineering on LinkedIn, and even after 6 months, it's still present. But you can't do much in that case.
Right, right. Scenarios like that are scary of what's the scary part of being an Indian, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Akash, do you have any other questions right now? Sorry, couldn't hear you clearly.
No, it's fine.
Um,
Yeah,
I
got my
had
answer.
a question. I had a question for Pushkar actually. Can you enlighten us more on the DevSecOps practices, etc., and somewhere on the SST, DST side, which you guys actually, so basically the software development lifecycle and the security practices which Amazon carries forward. I'm not talking from the AWS perspective. I'm talking from the development perspective itself. So if you could throw some light on it, would be great.
Yeah. So in AWS, we have a lot of tooling. So we have automation which continuously scans all the GitHub repo, not GitHub, but internal Git repos, as well as pipelines for things like hard-coded credentials, for any cross-site scripting avenues. But that is all custom made to work across AWS or Amazon infrastructure. So then there is also a concept called AppSec reviews. So any new feature in AWS, when they go through this design review, at the end of the design reviews, they have to input their AWS account information. They have to give the path of their code base to our automation, and then that automation usually goes through misconfigurations and cuts tickets to the team saying, hey, this is a misconfiguration and you have to fix it before you launch. So everything is basically integrated into either internal GitHub or pipelines, and it cuts tickets as and when it detects security misconfiguration or security bugs. And there are like developers as well as security engineers working on those scanners internally.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, but the only part there, which I mean, they are pretty good, but those tools, I don't think they will ever become open source, or you won't ever get a chance to interact with them until you work for Amazon.
Got it.
I see. So there are several Amazon only tools which are being used internally.
Yeah, so every AWS account internally gets scanned for misconfiguration daily.
Okay.
And if we identify an issue, that particular team or that particular person gets a high severity ticket to fix that issue right now.
I see. Yeah, Jibran.
Okay, one question that even I've heard from a lot of my friends when they ask me about cybersecurity is ki, when you're working in a proper cybersecurity role, how important is programming per se? We do real programming when it comes to development, but uh, how important is programming in a cybersecurity role when you're working at a company like Amazon?
So it generally depends on the team. So if you are working for that scanner team, you need to do a lot more programming, or you need to be at a level where a software developer is. But in other teams like internal pen testing teams or internal network monitoring teams, all you need to do is write basic Python scripts to automate some of the tasks. So as long as you can write something in Python, that is usually sufficient. Don't need to be a full stack developer, or don't need to know everything about programming in those roles.
Okay, I see. So that means when you're interviewing, so for a company like say maybe Amazon or Google or any of such.
Yeah, so Google
Uh,
is different, but at least for my role, I there was no coding round in my role for Amazon.
okay, acha, so, so
But it
so
generally depends on company. So Google, even if you apply for a project manager role, in some cases they ask you programming. So it is a lot more dependent on the company.
oh, I see. So could you tell us a little bit about your interview process? Like how did it go? How many stages were there, and what were the stages? What were the questions like?
Yeah, so for Amazon, usually there is a phone screen, and the phone screen they will ask you things like, what do you know what is threat modeling? Do you know what is OS Prop 10 security issues? So that is pretty like a easy round. They'll just ask you what is cross-site scripting, what is SQL injection, can you name other OS top 10 attacks? As long as you can talk about each and every issue for like 2 to 3 minutes, usually that is sufficient. So that is usually the first round, phone screen. If you pass phone screen, uh, then you might have a HR call or not, depending on the position and where you are interviewing. And after that, there are in-person loops generally. Before COVID, they were used to be at least in-person rounds. Usually on the profile and the team, they could be around 5 to 6 interviews in one day. Each round is around 50
Oh,
minutes, and different people focus on different areas. So one person might ask you about, and each round has usually like for 20 minutes they ask you technical questions, and for 20 minutes they ask you behavioral questions. So in the first round, they might ask you about cryptography, and at the same time, they might ask you a question saying, was there a time where you disagreed with your manager, and what was the outcome of that disagreement? So that would be your say first round. The second round on the same day would be the first question might be again related to web application security. The non-technical question might be if you had a disagreement with someone else, how you resolved that disagreement. So similarly, there are 5 rounds for security. I was asked about threat modeling, web application security, cryptography, secure development, and then secure design. So those were my 5 technical interviews.
all right, I see. And when you were preparing for, even when you were doing your masters, did you find websites like Hack the Box or OneHub useful?
So I did not do hack the box, but I was taking part in the Northeastern CTF team. So those exercises were similar. So I did not do
Acha.
hack the box, but I was doing other similar exercises.
So did you do only like Jeopardy style CTFs, or you also went for some offline CTFs?
I'm not sure which Jeopardy ones are, but the ones where you actually have to do hands-on work, those are the CTFs I did. Like you need to do a port scan of a server, then figure out what is open, then figure out what is the software, how to exploit it. Those kind of CTFs.
Okay, like those are the real ones.
Yeah.
Like not like say Pico CTF or Google CTF, not like those.
No, no. I mean, you need to do actual hands-on work, take over that server remotely. Those kind of CTFs.
Okay, that's the real fun actually.
Yeah, yeah. Because at the end, that's those are the questions the interviewer will ask you, like how exactly will you take down a store or take over a server?
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right. I think that's all the questions that we have time for right now. You can add more questions to the Q&A channel so that we could talk. I mean, Pushkar or Jason or someone else could answer them over there itself. So I just, I mean, one tradition we have at permissionless learning is at the end of each session uh, we take around and we ask everyone what everyone's been learning over the past 2 weeks. So we call this the learning round, kind of. I mean, it doesn't have a name. I just gave it a name, I guess. So yeah, Gibran, I see you first on that list. Would you like to talk about what you've been doing for the past 2 weeks or
Yeah,
learning?
sure. Currently, though, when I graduated, I was looking for security roles, but I didn't get any. So I took a typical developer role. So over here at work, I've been learning apna Flutter. But other than that, on the weekend side, I'm solving apna over the wire, okay, bandit and the other exercises. So through that, I'm learning a little bit about security.
I see. That's nice. And what was the most interesting part of all that?
The most interesting part there was ki I learned basics of XSS. That was a little easy, but then first for the first time I was actually able to figure out how to perform a CSRF. तो
Okay,
वो सीख के बड़ा मजा आया.
that's nice. And yeah, Jason, what have you been learning over the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, so I actually go by the this thing. I'm actually a technical program manager, just like Gibran. During my time, when we started off I graduated in 2009. So after that, at that point of time, there were no, I mean, little to no mainstream security roles. And I did not come from a security background. So I also went into the typical, developer background, but with a slight twist. Most of the sectors which I had worked in had an element of security. So it was basically something which is called critical infrastructure. So it's like your power stations, etc., are automated by certain kinds of software and sensors. And I was typically involved in development aspects of that. Then on the software stack. Then later on, I moved towards web applications, etc. Currently, I was working on LAMP. So just like Gibran, on the weekends, mostly I started off a little bit on the technical side of actually very basic, as in just get into the cybersecurity kill chain, try to find a little bit of hacking, all of those kind of things. So that happened. So mostly right now I do one technical and one management this thing formal certification, you can say. So right now I'm preparing for OSP as Pushkar had mentioned on the technical side, and on the management side I'm preparing for something which is called CISM, Information Security Manager role. So that as far as this is concerned, I mean both sides have their own advantages, disadvantages, but I feel that security, you should always stay on top on the technical side. That's very important because unless of course you're doing that, you cannot. I mean, in other fields, you can so sort of manage the whole, software domain or other software development life cycle as such. But on that, as far as security is concerned, unless you have a very good understanding of the nuances of security, you shouldn't be able to do it. So I'm also mostly focused on the technical side. Yeah.
I see. So, again, same question. What was the most interesting part of all that?
Most interesting part of
What you've been doing so far?
um see it's a never ending learning process, as in every day, no matter so let's say you are in hack the box, or even with you have some when you subscribe to OSCP, you have the OSCP lab. So if you are really into it, there's always something new to learn every day. No matter, and if you have done something, let's say if you have broken into a server, you have escalated privileges, maintained access, etc. There is always a better way to do it. So I mean that you should have that quest for knowledge to. So I mean every time I actually go on the weekends to learn this kind of things, there is always, I always discover a better, faster way to actually do this kind of thing. So and in a time boxed event like CTFs or even the OSCP exam for that matter, these things really help. So new learning every day, whether it is networks or webs. Yeah.
I see. Thanks. Prasad, you want to go next?
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh, not much this week, but I was going to. I was reading a little bit more about linear algebra again. So I opened my books, which were 5 years old, and just to refresh the data science, or basics of all data science, I started learning linear algebra again. Apart from that, today's session was quite good. There are a lot of new points which software developers typically should know. I've noted down few things which we can, which I'll search later to improve our products.
Right.
So
I'll also
yeah,
ask Pushkar to add some links to notes hyphen resources later on.
yeah.
And
For starters like
yeah,
us,
yeah. You could also
yeah,
ask specific things that you're looking for, which he could help out with, I guess.
sure. Thanks.
Yep. I mean, linear algebra itself sounds pretty interesting because the basic parts are quite easy, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And you need a refresher after a few months, I guess, because you get lost in the work. You need to get back to basics once in a while.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Pushkar, do you want to talk about what you've been learning?
Actually, I am also trying to get into machine learning data science, but my linear algebra is also pretty weak. Since I'm been on vacation for last couple of weeks, I haven't done anything, but I'm also trying to learn little bit about data science, linear algebra. The end goal is there is a course called fast.ai.
Right.
Fast.ai site has 2 courses, and my goal is to finish both those courses by, say, this January and upcoming January. That's my goal.
Nice, nice. That sounds pretty interesting. Goal-based learning is always the best way to learn something new, I guess.
Yeah, that fast.ai teaches you actually how to do machine learning or data science projects, which you can then use in your actual work life.
Right. Prasad, you wanted to say something, I guess?
I just had one related question for Pushkar. So after learning, say, deep learning and machine learning, do you plan to, like, do you plan to use your security knowledge for getting into that, or you just have to, you just want to learn a new thing? Or
No, I mean, that will be useful. So in AWS, there is a service called Guard Duty. So what it does is it collects your network related logs, it collects other operating system logs, and it tries to catch any anomalies in those logs. If there are anomalies, it usually again alerts you saying, hey, there might be a something fishy or weird going on here. Similarly, there are models for identifying malware and whatnot. So, I mean, I'm learning it because I want to learn more about how that guard duty service works, how you can take your normal network logs, then run machine learning models through those and identify if there has been a compromise or not.
oh, that would be awesome. Cool.
Yeah, I think I got some of that. Uh, anyways, yeah, I'm next. So, over the past few weeks, I've been just doubling down on content creation and, filming videos by yourself is something which you forget if you don't do quite frequently. So, so for the video, I was filming before the current one. The current video which I have filmed isn't edited and out yet. So the previous one, I forgot how to record and the correct camera angle to keep stuff in, because it had been more than 3 weeks since then. But for the current one, it was easier for me because the time duration was just 2 weeks. So I am thinking that I should at least have, I mean, the maximum distance between two videos should be 2 weeks, so that I don't start forgetting these things, because relearning is also quite a painful process. And apart from content, I've been trying to learn Web 3.0 things. So, Web 3.0 meaning basically interacting with the Ethereum blockchain right now. And I uh, tried some front end libraries which interact with MetaMask, which is a Ethereum wallet for your browser, and it's pretty fun. You can actually create a complete login logout service just through MetaMask itself, because the extension itself handles login for you, so you don't need a backend anymore. So that's actually one of the major advantages of Web3, that instead of having Google and all these accounts, you just have your wallet and then you use that to log in everywhere, and the platform itself identifies you through the wallet address which is associated with you, which is a very long unique string basically. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. And Akash, Ravade, do you have any yeah, so what have you been doing over the past 2 weeks?
Hello, yeah. Currently, like from past week, I've been learning Python actually. It's like I'm new to programming languages actually.
I see.
Yeah, that's what, like all the learning from the variables and all those things from a month.
So what was the most interesting part of that?
Interesting part was programming languages, something like I was running away actually.
Okay.
Like having an background of mechanical actually, and be coming into cyber security, just learning things but not knowing the programming language was something I was afraid. But now it's like in the process of learning and being up to the mark.
I see.
Yeah,
That's nice. Upgrading yourself is always a good thing.
yeah, I'm actually trying it out.
Yeah. Nice job, nice job. Uh, yeah, Madhavi, do you wanna go next? I mean, you're last, I guess, but yeah.
Sure. So I've been learning web development for about 1.5, 2 weeks, and started with HTML. I also explored CSS all by myself. I mean, Akash uh, pretty much explained me all the basics and fundamentals of HTML, and I was the one who tried out CSS by myself, and I've been just exploring HTML, I think, and CSS now. So I'll be doing that for few more days, and then I'll jump to JavaScript probably. But it's been great. Just like Akash Ravare, I can completely resonate with the struggle. I'm also from a mechanical engineering background, and I know nothing of coding, and I mean, I just knew the basics of C and C++, but other than that, HTML was something very new to me. I did not even know what a markup language is. I had to find out
Hello? Madhavi, I think we have lost you.
what it is. Fun. That was something new. Hello? Yeah.
Yeah, you might have network issues. Hello?
Yeah. I'll try switching to different network.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just
Am I
add one
audible
thing.
now?
ठीक है.
Hello?
Yeah, go. Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, I think I'll have to do I have to repeat all of it?
Nope, nope. I think we just pretty much got all of it. You were going to conclude, I guess.
Yeah, so so that's it. I don't know if this is something I'll
We are losing you again. Okay, yeah, Jibran, why don't you go on ahead? I think we got what Madhavi was trying to say.
Okay, cool. So, if in case there is anybody who's looking to get into CTFs properly, perform well, one very good resource I'd like to suggest is this fellow called John Hammond. His YouTube channel is fantastic for all kinds of like he does all the difficult challenges in the CTFs and shows you how to do those. That's one thing. And if in case somebody who's looking to do their OSCP, then Hack the Box is quite essential. And for Hack the Box, I'd suggest you to check out this fellow called IPSec. He's an absolute legend, and his videos are absolute gold. So do check out those also.
Awesome, thanks. Also, put them in notes hyphen resources.
Note resource. Okay, yeah, got it. I'll add it there.
All right, thanks. I guess, yeah, this was a pretty good session. We actually managed to wrap it up inside 1 hour 15 minutes. Generally, when there's a lot of speakers here, we end up going to 2 hours or 2.5 hours also. So, yeah, does anyone have any closing questions right now?
Yeah, just one thing, if I might ask, Pushkar, ki, um, how many leaves do you get at Amazon? Like, how's the work culture over there?
So I don't know about India, but in US, first year you get 2 weeks. After second year, you get 3 weeks. And Canada, it's the same. You get 3 weeks from year one. So 3 weeks,
Okay,
and on top of which is paid time off, and on top of that, I think you get 1 week for personal days, or not personal days, the sick days or something. But around 4 weeks every year in Canada.
okay.
But
And
I
if
don't know how
supposing,
it's. I don't know how it's in India. Might be different.
yeah, and if supposing you're working at Amazon itself, and if you do want to do some sort of a certification for your own growth and for the company's benefit, does Amazon pay for it in some way?
Yeah, Amazon does pay for it. You just need to write a business case, or you just need to convince your manager. And if you manage to convince your manager, you can expense the certificate.
Okay, cool.
The
And
only problem is, I mean, I usually after work every day, I'm so tired that I don't really do anything else on most days.
yeah, I know it's totally relatable.
Yeah.
Okay, and one thing is that did you find any difference between Amazon US and Amazon Canada?
No, they are pretty much similar. But
Okay.
India, I mean, Amazon India or AWS, I mean, I don't think there is AWS India, but India is different. Usually Canada, US, EU are on a similar, they have a similar work-life balance and similar work cultures.
True. Also, I did hear from a couple of my colleagues who are currently doing the master and who have done it. So what they were like is ki among the FANG, the Amazon has the most brutal work culture. Like, is that true? Is that true
Yeah.
according to your experience?
Yeah, I mean, AWS security is one of the worst teams in AWS. The attrition rate is pretty high. Every year, if I mean, the attrition rate must be around 30%. I mean, whatever head count we have at the start of Jan, we lose around 30% of those people by, like, say, November, December. So AWS is definitely worst among all FANG companies, and
So
some
like,
teams are even worse than others.
oh my. So like they're lost because of beating by other companies like talent hunting, or is it like just because the person is burnt out so much that the person cannot
Yeah,
doesn't
you
really
get
work?
burnt out. I mean, there is a lot of stress. I mean, we routinely find really high security issues which we can't, like, disclose, but there's a lot of stress because of how many security issues we find. And I mean, there is a lot of, if you find a security issue, then there is a lot of scrutiny around it. Then sometimes lawyer gets involved, sometimes marketing gets involved, and really
Oh my.
boring and, like, bureaucratic process.
Yeah, I can totally understand. When you have to really plow through so many people and teams to get anything fixed, it gets quite annoying.
Yeah. Plus, you have to work like 8 to 9 hours a day. When you can get some break, but not more than like say 45 minutes.
Oh my.
So there is no like a free time. Most of your day is consumed by actual work.
Security requires a completely different mindset altogether. Unlike development, where it's like, this is the goal, these are requirements. Once you achieve it, done. You move on to something completely different. It's not like that. You're on the grind 24/7. Anything will come up at any point of time.
Yep, true. And when we keep repeatedly finding, sometimes we find EC2 instances by some developer who was publicly accessible without authentication. Sometimes we find RDS database, and that's where the automation also comes into the picture. Automation finds it, but if someone once automation finds it, someone has to go through logs, identify if it was accessed by someone unauthorized. You have to go through logs to figure out who accessed it, or what kind of data was accessed. Does it need to go through the legal cycle or legal review and whatnot?
Okay. Acha, one more thing would be that, like in the light of you sharing that you are picking up data science or AI/ML, uh, how important, like, up to what extent can AI/ML be used in cybersecurity? Because I saw a couple of different project topics when I was doing my final year project. Here, cybersecurity can be used. Here, cybersecurity can be used for things like malware analysis and stuff. But the biggest hindrance from AI/ML being used in real life cybersecurity is that in cybersecurity you cannot afford a false negative. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that is the biggest factor which is holding back. Like, is that true even in Amazon?
I mean, depends on how you apply. So if we know that there has been a compromise, we are not going to rely on a tool to determine what the extent of that compromise was, right? Like someone manually who will go and investigate it. But for the initial triage or initially figuring out whether there was a compromise or not, machine learning is useful. So for initial triage, it can be useful, and then if we think there might be a risk, then some human gets and checks it out. So the
Okay.
example I shared with you, guard duty, if there is no guard duty, we might not even know that an instance has been compromised. So figuring that out, guard duty tool can help us. Machine learning can help us in figuring out that compromise. But once it is compromised, or if there is a risk of compromise, we are not just going to rely on that ML system.
Right, right. Sorry, Jibran, I'll have to
Yeah.
cut you off there right now. If you have any more questions, you can, I guess, put them in Q&A, or you guys can join the lounge channel here. But
Sure.
thanks everyone for joining us today. And this was a very fun session. I personally got to know a lot of things about cybersecurity that I didn't know about from everyone, including Jason and Akash Rawade, who's newly learning Cybersec as well. So, alright, guys, see you in 2 weeks' time, and meanwhile, you can keep connected through this channel itself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Sure, bro. Thanks, man. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.